I missed her totally. Okay. Got it. He's got 12.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Griffin,
Here.
Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House Jones, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moorer, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. You have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. Would everyone please rise for a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll make the following statement. This meeting of Cleveland City Council is a lawful meeting. Under Section 605.04 of the Codified Ordinances, no person with purpose to prevent or disrupt a lawful meeting shall do any act which obstructs or interferes with the due conduct of such meeting. Members of the public are invited to speak only under the rules set by this council. Disruptions include, but not limited to, speaking out of turn and making loud noises and loud utterances are in violation of the rules and interfere with the due conduct of this lawful meeting. Such disruptions may constitute a misdemeanor and a violation of Section 605.04. Anyone who disrupts this lawful meeting in violation of the codified ordinances commits misdemeanors and is subject to prosecution. The following is the first and only warning. If this meeting is disrupted, I will gavel a halt to the proceedings and direct the assembled officers to escort any person participating in the disruption out of the chamber. Once persons participating in the disruption are outside of the chambers, the officers will close the doors, and the disruptors will be handled as directed by the Director of Public Safety. The council proceedings will not begin again until those that participated in the disruption have left the chamber and the chamber doors are closed. Disruptors will not be allowed back in the chamber after the meeting resumes. Again, this is the first and only warning. Madam Clerk, please dispense with the journal.
By Councilmember Harsh, that the reading of the minutes of the last meeting be dispensed with, the journal approved, seconded by Councilmember Hairston.
Thank you so much. We will now go to public comment, and I would urge all of the council members to turn around to observe the commenters, and I would ask the commenters to make sure that you observe the rules of this council. When you see the yellow on this in front of you, that means to wrap it up, and when you see the red, that means you have to abruptly stop. I will be enforcing all of the rules as such. The first person that we have is Zenobian Adams from Slavic Village. Zenobian is here to talk about airport business operations and representing Purpose Consultants, and is not being paid by anyone to comment. Is Zenobian Adams here? Zenobian Adams. Zenobian Adams going once. Zenobian Adams going twice. Zenobian Adams is not present. The next person is Luca Wagner from Mentor to talk about city prosecution. Luca Wagner is not representing anyone and not being paid by anyone. Is Luca Wagner from Mentor here? Luca Wagner. Luca Wagner. Luca Wagner going once. Luca Wagner going twice. Luca Wagner is not here. The next person is Nikki Hudson from Coudale. Nikki Hudson is from 100, the topic that Nikki wants to talk about is 10022. She's not representing anyone, not being paid by anyone. Nikki, you had the floor. Please acknowledge your time.
Good evening, council members. I live in the Coudale neighborhood of Cleveland, and last spring I came to speak to you about the importance of saving green space and trees at Coudale Park. Tonight, I'm here to speak about another threat to the park and also to the neighborhood in general. Legislation has been proposed by Ward 11 Councilman Danny Kelly that would remove the parcel associated with 10022 Madison Avenue from its protective pedestrian overlay district zoning, allowing what is now a prohibited gas station to be built on that site. Not only would this gas station be located immediately next to Cadell Park and Cadell Recreation Center, but also Marion Seltzer Elementary School, Story Church, and a daycare center. Councilman Kelly has stated that gas stations are the new corner stores. So I want to ask you all to think about the gas stations in your ward and what effect they've had on the surrounding community. Council President Griffin, there's a Sunoco located in Ward 6 on Buckeye, which also happens to be associated with the owners of this proposed gas station on Madison. That gas station, that Sunoco, has been a huge problem for the neighborhood, with hundreds of calls for service to police in the last few years. Councilman Jones, there was a story on the news over the weekend about a gas station in Ward 1 where cars and people have been gathering, resulting in crime and violence. These are not isolated instances. Gas stations are known not just for bringing traffic and pollution, but also for attracting criminal activity. Gas stations do not contribute to the fabric of a neighborhood. They rip that fabric apart in order to do what gas stations do best: make money and feed on people's vices by selling beer, wine, cigarettes, and vapes. Regarding 10022 in particular, the owners secured a liquor license for the site before the sale of the property was even final, making their intentions of selling alcohol immediately next to a city park, a rec center, and an elementary school crystal clear. Councilman Kelly has repeated that he's not interested in hearing from Ward 15 residents regarding this issue. And since you're in the process of redistricting and redrawing ward boundaries, I encourage all of you to examine what those boundaries look like right now. The vast majority of Ward 11 sits south of I-90, with just a sliver extending north through Ward 15 to reach former Councilwoman Donna Brady's house on West Boulevard near Clifton. That gerrymander is so extreme that it was given a name, the Scorpion's Tail. Councilman Kelly's proposed gas station is located inside the Scorpion's Tail. To ignore the residents of Ward 15 when we will be the ones who have to live with the effects is unconscionable. The Scorpion's Tail does not exist in a vacuum, and neither would this gas station. This is one community, and what happens on this corner will affect all of us.
Next, we have Jonathan Steyer. Jonathan Steyer is from the Cadell neighborhood to talk about ordinance number 791-2024. He's not representing anyone, and he's not being paid by anyone. Jonathan, you have the floor.
Evening, and thank you for your time. I'm here as a resident of West 100th Street. I live about 600 feet from the parcel in question. I've been hesitant to make comment. There's been a lot of language used which seemingly aims to question who counts as a neighborhood resident, but there are approximately 685 acres in the neighborhood of Cadell. About 400 to 500 of those are zoned residential or commercial, and of those, about 86 are within Ward 11. The remaining more than 80% are Ward 15. This is an interward issue, and I truly believe it needs to be treated as such. I've lived in Cadell going on 9 years. I'm involved in community work in the neighborhood. I represent my precinct on the Central Committee. I've seen many of you at executive committee meetings. I care deeply about the representation of this neighborhood, and I will continue to do so when the ward boundaries change later this year. I do want to comment on a few remarks from last week. I do admire all of the speakers, regardless of their stances. They all called for progress. Nobody is speaking out against progress. Specifically, what they are speaking out against is a spot zoning ordinance that would ultimately remove the ability of residents and council to justify and argue for the future of our neighborhoods. Excuse me. This spot zoning, there was also a claim last week that people don't walk in the neighborhood. In addition to my household, numerous people walk in the neighborhood. They're walking to the RTA and they're walking to businesses around the corner. Over the last decade, numerous businesses have opened. The Palazzo restaurant reopened, Classic Euro opened, Goodard Farm expanded, the Macon Convenient Mart was renovated, Story Church opened, and there's ongoing renovation for a supportive housing facility for new mothers. There are 4 storefronts at West 98 that are consistently occupied by businesses. This is in addition to the city's investment in the fire station, the impending rebuild of Marion C. Seltzer Elementary, and the soon-to-break-ground $18 million Deep Bone Detroit apartment building 1 block north of this location. This is not a stagnant location. It's part of a transportation demand management zone that City Council recently created, and I implore you to stick with that vision. This spot zoning ordinance ultimately removes the guardrails. We understand the proposals for a gas station now, but there is no official schematic, and there's no commitment to outcomes for the community. If a current or future owner wishes to change the site use, adult entertainment, nightclubs, auto repair, auto sales would all be permitted by right, because this legislation removes councils of oversight of this parcel. I understand this feels like a quick solution to a problem, but ultimately I feel this is undermining resident and council's ability to advocate for their neighborhoods. And I believe that ultimately this is eroding our ability to call for good land use and good governance. So I humbly ask council today to pump the brakes on this legislation, consider the downstream implications from an ordinance with short-term goals, and ultimately think of a more holistic and community-centric approach to these topics. Thank you.
Next, we have Greg Levy. Greg Levy is from Cleveland Heights to talk about city prosecution of black leaders. He's not representing anyone and not being paid by anyone. Greg, you have the floor.
I've had the opportunity to witness the work of Antoine Tolbert, also known as Chairman Fahim. The chairman is a gifted organizer with a passion for the well-being of young people. To these young people, he is both a teacher and a mentor. While the juvenile justice system calls many of these young people at risk or troubled, Chairman Fahim renames them as his favorites. With his support, these troubled youth are transformed back into sons and daughters. These youth are the much anticipated leaders of an unfolding beautiful struggle. They will be the redemption of a much maligned, ignored, and disrespected people. They are our kids. They are working class black kids in one of the poorest cities in the U.S. The chairman is an activist. He teaches our young people to speak out, but to do so thoughtfully and responsibly. He shows them to insert positivity and love into the actions they do in the name of our community. The words spoken and actions taken won't resonate with the people unless they know you care about them. The chairman isn't shy to show he cares about our people and our community. The chairman also shows love in actions that conquer fear. It is his love for our community that requires that he defend it. Chairman Fahim will always defend our right to self-defense. It's the type of love that crashes headfirst into the forces of white supremacy and domination. That's why, to our community, Chairman Fahim is the pillar of integrity and backbone. The unrepentant love of working class people is often rewarded with disdain by those who have careers based in this maintenance of the status quo. But that is not surprising. But the tolerance of injustice by the complacent will not win. We will not offer up to scrutiny those who show sincere love and leadership to our people. As a community, we will fight as a community of the working poor, we will fight for Fahim. As a black community, we will fight for Fahim. As a coalition of those who love justice and reject oppression in all its forms, we will fight for Fahim. We reject poverty as well as racism. We reject mass incarceration as well as political frame-ups. Free Fahim and free Palestine. And I'd be remiss to ignore the scheduled execution of DNA exonerated black Muslim brother in the state of Missouri. Free Khalifa, AKA Marcellus Williams. Free Fahim.
Thank you. Next, we have Antoine Tolbert. Antoine Tolbert is from the Buckeye Shaker neighborhood. He's talking about policing in Cleveland. He's not representing anyone and not being paid by anyone. This is not Antoine Tolbert. Is Antoine Tolbert here?
Mr. Tolbert couldn't attend.
Okay, you're not excused. Antoine Tolbert is here. Who's the next person? You're not here, ma'am. You're not on the mic, ma'am. Thank you. Have a good day. Next person is Ramir Askew, Buckeye Road, police suppression against black people, and he's not representing anyone and not being paid by anyone. Thank you.
Now, before I begin, I want to make it clear that I'm not here speaking solely for myself, but also for the youth of Cleveland, Ohio. Every decision made within these halls affects us, and yet our voices are rarely heard. No one seems to ask us what we, the community, and the youth want or need. So today, I stand before you to offer a glimpse of what I've seen this summer and how it's impacted me. In the streets of inner city Cleveland, I've seen young men and women like myself yearning for the freedom to simply enjoy our youthhood. Yet, the opportunity is stolen from us by the violence that lurks around every corner. It is a sad reality when every event I attend is shadowed by fear that it could be my last event. And it saddens me more when I can't count on the police to arrive in time to protect me and my peers. This summer alone, I witnessed young man and woman around my age fall victim to gun violence. I've seen gas station owners who prioritize profits over our safety, willing to take our money but not protect us from the surrounding dangers. I've seen police officers allow a pedophile to drive himself to the police station after being caught selling drugs to a minor in exchange for sex. I've seen an innocent man arrested on false allegations, simply to stop him from serving our community. And yes, I am referring to Chairman Fahim of New Era Cleveland. He's the man who gave us, the youth, a sense of security. We felt safe when him and New Era Cleveland was around at our gatherings. He's the one who stepped in to break many fights that could have ended up deadly. This summer, we the youth have seen a lot and been through a lot. And only since security we had, y'all stripped that away from us. So my question to you, council members, do you care? Do you care about what we've experienced and how it impacted us? If you do, what will you do to ensure our safety and security? I can tell you now that locking a man up who protected us off false allegations is not the way to go. Now, Chairman Fahim was here today and planned on speaking, but unfortunately, Chairman couldn't speak because one of the people behind Chairman's false charges deliberately came here to silence him. But I'm standing here before you today to let you know that Chairman won't be silenced, that when the truth comes to light, the true criminals will be exposed. Thank you. Y'all have a blessed one. Justice for Chairman.
Next, we have Michael Armstrong. Michael Armstrong is from Coudale. He's not representing anyone, not being paid by anyone. Mr. Armstrong, you have the floor.
Thank you. Ordinance 347-2024 recently passed and changed the zoning map in my Ward 15 neighborhood. This form-based code zoning legislation was co-sponsored by Ward 6 Councilperson Griffin and Ward 10 Councilperson Hairston. In fairness, this legislation was also by departmental request from City Planning, whose department head resides in the suburbs. So in effect, the zoning map changes where I live are a result of people who live in Ward 6, 10, and the suburbs. I worked hard this past year to help protect Cattell Commons Park, which is in my neighborhood too. I am thankful it was saved. It is being upgraded and the new Seltzer School is being built. This park is in 2 wards, 11 and 15, the Seltzer School in Ward 15. My Bach Club, while mostly in Ward 15, is also in Councilman Kelly's Ward 11. He has been a part of our meetings too. 2 wards, 1 block club. Adjacent to Cattell Park and Seltzer School is 122 Madison. Though located in Ward 11, it is a part of my neighborhood. This summer, Ward 10 Councilperson Hairston and Ward 11 Councilperson Kelly co-sponsored Ordinance 791-2024 to spot zone this parcel and rescind the Pedestrian Retail Overlay District, PRO, to allow a gas station that sells alcohol next to the park and the school. Their ordinance ignores the recommendations of both zoning appeals and the City Planning Commission, both rejecting a variance at this address. 791 also dismisses the work of former council members Westbrook and Brady, who both established the PRO together via Ordinance 1332-13. Their respective ward boundaries met at the intersection of West Boulevard and Madison, and they enacted the PRO for and with the entire community. By the way, up until 15, 20 years ago, this location has always been in 1 ward. But Ward 11 Council Kelly rejects these zoning decisions because he knows better and has said if you don't live in his ward, you don't, quote, have a darn thing to say, unquote, unless maybe you're from Ward 10. But that's not how good zoning decisions are made. Our city transcends ward boundaries. Danny Kelly, as Cleveland's only council member who does not live in the ward he represents, elected in Ward 11, but a Ward 16 resident, live in 1 ward and represent the other. Of all people, he should understand we have to do what's good for this city and not just your solo decisions in your ward boundary. Please, council members, do not vote to allow a gas station next to a park in an elementary school and reject 791-2024. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Susan Zimmerman. Susan Zimmerman is from Coudale here to talk about the proposed gas station. She is not representing anyone, and she is not being paid by anyone. Is Susan Zimmerman available? Ms. Zimmerman, you have the floor.
Thank you. I moved to West Boulevard in 1985. The owners of Shaker Madison LLC live in North Royalton. They want a gas station at the former CVS site at West Boulevard and Madison Avenue. Like many neighbors, I oppose this gas station. Am I allowed to ask how many here oppose it? We already have 2 convenience stores within 2 blocks. We don't need one more, selling more alcohol. A neighbor counted 15 gas stations within a 2-mile radius. Ward 11 Council Member Danny Kelly has said he cares only about the views of people in his ward. I live in the adjacent Ward 15, but Coudell is my neighborhood and my opinion does matter. The developer's pretty drawing shows a bank branch in their plans. There is 0 chance a bank will open here. Banks are moving out of our neighborhood. In fact, the owners have no commitments from potential tenants. We are a historic district, which makes this gas station unsuitable. Former council members Jay Westbrook and Donna Brady worked hard to win sane, safe zoning here. Our zoning makes this illegal. Mainly, though, I'm concerned about traffic and children. May I show you a sketch I drew? Fire Station 23 at West 98 sends out many fire trucks and EMS vans. They aren't the problem, of course, but other drivers then have to figure out how to get out of the way in an already congested and confusing neighborhood. Speeding is normal on West Boulevard. Plenty of drivers treat our quarter-mile block like a racetrack. Those of us in Coudell have witnessed many car crashes. One night at 1:30 a.m., a loud crash woke me. A car completely missed the 90-degree curve on West Boulevard, went straight ahead, sheared off a utility pole. The car and driver ended up in a Madison Avenue storefront. Many people go way too fast around the 2 90-degree curves on West Boulevard. They can't stay in their lane. West 101 crosses this intersection. Drivers ignore that stop sign. Danny Kelly and the owners might say a few fender benders are okay with them, but what about children walking to school at West 98th? Yes, Sam Mohammed, children still do walk to school in our neighborhood where lots of people don't have cars. Children also walk to the recreation center, the fine arts center, and the city park. How many children live in the 116 units at Boulevard Terrace, directly opposite this property? Do these men really believe our kids won't be run down by drivers in a big hurry to get to those gas pumps and cappuccino machines? I would not want to be Danny Kelly when the first child is killed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have James Lamb. James Lamb is from Cleveland. James Lamb is doesn't list the topic of what he's here to talk about. He's not representing anyone and not being paid by anyone. Mr. Lamb, please observe your time. Thank you.
Good evening. Pleasure to see you all. Listen, tonight I stand at this mic and I can agree with some of everything that I heard. I don't think a gas station ought to be built next to a park. But now my subject is accountability. Okay? I look at the city of Cleveland, and I've been in it. I've been in these halls 47 years. 47 years. No one in here has been in here 47 years. This mic is a beautiful thing. But you know what? We don't get no answers. No answers come back about what we speak on. We run around and you all shove 90,000 pieces of literature in our mailboxes wanting us to vote. We vote, you get the paycheck. We vote and turn around 20 years. Some of you all been sitting here, and guess what? The east side of Cleveland look like hell. Looks like hell. I cannot tell you how many streets I have ran down and found 5 houses on the street. No more than 15 houses on the street, and all the rest of them are abandoned lots or houses falling, okay? For us to be the voter, us to be the taxpayer, and a citizen in the city of Cleveland. I cannot understand how it is that we don't have no accountability coming from you all. I'm not only on you all because I step over to the mayor's office, okay? I was working for the city of Cleveland. I asked to meet with the mayor. I met with the mayor. I found another problem. I asked him, could I meet with him? He said, make an appointment. I go up to his office to make an appointment. And his chief of staff tells me I'm not going to see the mayor. Turn around, I tell him I'll go over his head. The next day, I go to work to find out that I get fired over the telephone.
Mr. Lamb, your time is
so
up.
So when it comes down to it,
your
wait
time
1
is up,
second.
Mr. Lamb. Mr. Lamb, your time is up. Thank you, sir. Mr. Lamb, your time is up. Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, please share communications. Thank you. Madam Clerk, please share communications. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, please share communications. Thank you, sir.
File number
Thank you, Mr. Lamb. Thank you, Mr. Lamb.
File number 10.
Madam Clerk, please share communications.
File number 1017, 2024, from Brian McGady, President. Notice of intent to apply to Ohio Housing Finance Agency for multifamily funding programs for the development known as Hub 27 at 2500 West 27th Street, Ward 3. File number 1018, 2024, from Executive Director at FRDC, notice of intent to apply to Ohio Housing Finance Agency for multifamily funding programs for the development known as Innovation Square Phase 2 at 2287 East 103rd Street, Ward 6. File number 1019, 2024, from Scott Skinner from the NRP Group. Notice of intent to apply to the Ohio Housing Finance Agency for multifamily funding programs for the development known as Midtown Lofts at 3301 Payne Avenue and 3338 Payne Avenue, Ward 7. File number 1020, 2024, from Dr. Gina Merritt, Principal at Northern Real Estate Urban Ventures. Notice of intent to apply to Ohio Housing Finance Agency for multifamily funding program for the development known as MLK Plaza Phase 1 at 9300 Wade Park Avenue, Ward 7. File number 1021, 2024, from Mark Whipkey from CHN Housing Partners. Notice of intent to apply to Ohio Housing Finance Agency for multifamily funding programs for the development known as Near West Side Homes on approximately 50 land parcels, various wards in Cleveland, Ohio. File number 1022, 2024, from Wesley R. Young from St. Mary Development Corporation. Notice of intent to apply to Ohio Housing Finance Agency for multifamily funding programs for the development known as Hub 27 Senior Lofts at 2500 West 27th Street, Ward 3. From the Ohio Division of Liquor Control, file number 1023, 2024, regarding a transfer of ownership application at 3153 West 73rd Street, Ward 3. File number 1024, 2024, regarding a transfer of ownership application at 1299 West 9th Street, Ward 3. File number 1025, 2024, regarding a new license application at 2121 Euclid Avenue, Ward 5. File number 1026, 2024, regarding a transfer of ownership application at 7515 Kinsman Road, Ward 5.
Thank you. Are there any condolence resolutions?
Resolutions of condolence by Councilmember Jones for Sam Ella Powers Williams, by Councilmember Conwell for Kevin Laniel Harvey, by all members of council for Barbara C. Pringle, by Councilmember Casey for Carol Ann Skindell, by Councilmember Bishop for Patricia Ann Adams, by Councilmember Jones for Walter Wenson, by Councilmember Jones for Atris Dowdell Fielder.
Are there any other condolences? While council members rise for a moment of silence. Thank you. Congratulatory resolutions.
Resolutions of congratulations by Councilmember Griffin for La Machina Molta Bella Auto Show, by Councilmember Polensek for the Slovenian National Home, by Councilmember Griffin for Western Reserve Historical Society, by Councilmember McCormack for Cleveland Seamen's service on their 60th anniversary, by Councilmember Jones for Keratin Barber College, by Councilmember Griffin for Maurice A. Hilliard, by Councilmember Griffin for Zeta Omega Chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity and Zeta Omega Foundation, Tools for Our Students. Resolutions of recognition by Councilmember Griffin for Canon Medical Academy, USA, by Councilmember Casey for Jim Bonafanti, by Councilmember Starr for Martin Graves Robertson on the Saunders family reunion, by Councilmember Conwell for Letitia Nail, by Councilmember McCormack for Marcy Goodman.
Thank you. There are no presentations. First reading emergency ordinances referred for administrative review and committee review.
Ordinance 1008-2024 by Councilmembers Polensek and Griffin by departmental request to amend a contract with Axon Enterprise to consolidate various contracts with Axon for purchases and services for the various divisions of the Department of Safety. Ordinance 1009-2024 by Councilmembers Bishop, Hairston, and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Directors of Economic Development and/or Building and Housing to apply for and accept a Brownfields Remediation Program grant from the Ohio Department of Development, demolition, asbestos and waste removal, site remediation, and other necessary services needed for future redevelopment of the former National Acme site, and authorizing the Director to enter into one or more contracts with Cuyahoga County Land Reutilization Corporation to manage and implement the grant. Ordinance 1010-2024 by Councilmembers Hairston, Bishop, and Griffin by departmental request, approving the report of the Assessment Equalization Board on objections concerning estimated assessments to design, inspect, reconstruct, repair, and/or install roadways, sidewalks, driveway aprons, curbs, including adjustments of castings and landscaping if necessary, encroaching upon the public right-of-way on Euclid Beach Boulevard and East 159th Street, determining to proceed with the improvements and adopting the equalized assessments. Ordinance 1011-2024 by Council Members Polensek and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Public Safety to cause payment to the Cuyahoga County for services rendered through the County Department of Public Safety and Justice Services to reimburse the county for the city's share of the costs and maintaining and use of 5 Motorola NG 911 workstations, 911 workstations, and other related expenses. Ordinance 1012-2024 by Councilmembers Polensek and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Public Safety to cause payment to Cuyahoga County for services rendered through County Medical Examiner's Office to reimburse the county for the city's share of costs for maintaining and use of the automated fingerprint identification system. Ordinance 1013-2024 by Councilmembers Hairston and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the mayor and the commissioner purchases and supplies to acquire and reconvey properties presently owned by 1030 East 62nd LLC or its designee for the purpose of entering into the chain of title prior to the adoption of tax increment financing legislation authorized under Section 5709.41 of the Ohio Revised Code for the 1030 East 62nd redevelopment project. Ordinance 1014, 2024, by Council Members Casey, Hairston, and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing Director of Economic Development to enter into a loan agreement with Neighborhood Health Care Incorporated, or its designee, to provide economic development assistance to partially finance the redevelopment of property located at 13027 Lorraine Avenue, needed to expand their operations and for their associated costs necessary to redevelop the property. Ordinance 1015, 2024, by Council Members Polensek and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing Director of Public Safety to enter into various written standard purchase and requirement contracts for the necessary items of one fire alarm system, including labor and materials, for the installation of the new system and removal and abatement of the current fire system if necessary for the Division of Fire, Department of Public Safety. Ordinance 1016, 2024, by Council Members Hairston and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing Director of Economic Development to enter into contract with 1030 East 62nd Street LLC or its designee to provide economic development assistance to partially finance the project costs for development of the 1030 East 62nd Street project and other associated costs necessary to redevelop the property.
Thank you. First reading emergency resolutions to be adopted.
Resolution 1027, 2024, by Councilmember Starr, objecting to the transfer of ownership of a C1, C2 liquor permit at 7515 Kinsman Road.
Thank you. Read the motion to suspend the rules.
By Councilmember Harsh, that the rules be suspended and the legislation just read be placed on final passage, seconded by Councilmember Hairston.
Thank you. Call the roll.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House, Jones, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 16 yeas.
Call the roll on passage.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House, Jones, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 16 yeas.
Thank you. Second reading emergency ordinances to be passed.
Ordinance 810, 2024, by Council Members McCormack and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing Director of Port Control to enter into one or more leases by way of concession with one or more entities for the operation of a valet parking service at Cleveland Hopkins International Airport for the Department of Port Control for a period of 2 years with 3 one-year options to renew, exercisable by the Director of Port Control. Ordinance 813, 2024, by Council Members McCormack and Griffin by departmental request, to supplement the codified ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio by enacting new section 571.93 relating to electrical vehicle charging and fees. Ordinance 816, 2024, by Council Members McCormack and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing Director of Port Control to exercise the first option to renew a contract with Siemens Industry for labor and materials necessary to maintain, repair, upgrade, and expand the existing Apogee building automation system for the Department of Port Control. Ordinance 817, 2024, by Council Members McCormack and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing Director of Port Control to exercise the option to renew a contract with Johnson Controls Fire Protection, LP, for the implementation of the fire protection system replacement projects, including the necessary labor, materials, and programming for the Department of Port Control. Ordinance 818, 2024, by Council Members McCormack and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Port Control to exercise the first option to renew a contract with Fabrizi Trucking and Paving Company to provide for the rental of heavy-duty equipment, snow removal equipment, other equipment, and any necessary labor, materials, or equipment needed for snow and ice removal for the Department of Port Control. Ordinance 819, 2024, by Council Members McCormack and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Port Control to enter into one or more amendments to lease by way of concession agreements with various car rental companies that operate rental car concessions at Cleveland Hopkins International Airport to extend the term of the leases for 3 years with 2 one-year options to renew, exercisable by the Director of Port Control. Ordinance 824, 2024, as amended by Council Members McCormack and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing Director of Port Control to employ one or more professional consultants to provide lobbying services to assist with legislative, regulatory, and policy issues with Cleveland Airport System for a period of 1 year with 3 one-year options to renew, exercisable by the Director of Port Control. Ordinance 826, 2024, as amended by Council Members McCormack and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the purchase by one or more requirement contracts for supplemental custodial support services and labor needed to maintain the interior and exterior buildings and grounds at Cleveland Hopkins International Airport for a period of 1 year with 3 one-year options to renew, exercisable by the Director of Port Control. Ordinance 828, 2024 by Council Members McCormack and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the purchase by one or more contracts of up to 13 passenger boarding bridges at Cleveland Hopkins International Airport, including but not limited to related appurtenances and services, and the installation, removal, and disposal of outdated bridges at Cleveland Hopkins International Airport, Department of Port Control. Ordinance 836, 2024 by Council Members McCormack and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing Director of Port Control to employ one or more professional consultants to provide various on-call content training services to assist with employee skills and certifications for a period of 1 year with 3 one-year options to renew, exercisable by the Director of Port Control. Ordinance 837, 2024, as amended by Council Members McCormack and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Port Control to employ one or more real estate appraisers or one or more firms of real estate appraisers to provide professional services necessary to appraise real, personal, and other interests in real property on an as-needed basis for a period of up to 2 years with 3 one-year options to renew, exercisable by the Director of Port Control. Ordinance 986, 2024 by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request to amend sections 1 and 4 of Ordinance 854, 2024 relating to contracts with MuniCap for professional services to provide financial advisor services on the recently established shore-to-core-to-shore tax increment financing district.
Thank you. Read the motion to suspend the rules.
By Councilmember Harsh, that the rules be suspended and the legislation just read be placed on final passage, seconded by Councilmember Hairston.
Thank you. Call the roll.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House, Jones, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 16 yeas.
Thank you. Call the roll on passage.
Griffin, Bishop, Conwell, Gray, Hairston, Harsh, House, Jones, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore, McCormack, Polensek, Santana, Slife, Spencer, Starr. 16 yeas.
Thank you. Any introductions? Any introductions? Hold on. Not seeing any introductions. Are there any announcements? Any announcements? Councilman Joseph Jones, or is this announcements or miscellaneous? I know you asked me for more time.
This is introduction, real quick, Mr.
Councilman Joseph Jones for introductions.
I wanted to say I recognize Raheem Muhammad, and let me not get this wrong. Marietta Muhammad, I got it right. And I just want to thank them for the work that they do in the neighborhood and feeding kids, and just wanted to take the time, Mr. President, to introduce them.
Thank you for your service. All right, any other announcements? Any other announcements? Councilman Kerry McCormick, Majority
Thank you, Mr.
Leader.
Chairman. I wanted to welcome one of Ward 3's finest, Tara Coleman, who's with us here today. She's a powerhouse attorney in Cleveland and downtown Ward 3 resident.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Any other announcements? Seeing no other announcements, is there any miscellaneous? Any miscellaneous? Councilman Chris Harsh, Councilwoman Jenny Spencer, Councilman Richard Starr, Councilman Joe Jones. And let me reset the clock because you want to make sure you get your appropriate time. All right, there you go. Please start, Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to talk about CMSD's three-star ranking. I know this came out last week, but I think it's worth it for us to revisit and congratulate CMSD on achieving 3 stars in the states. We weren't part of the 5-star ranking. It's the first time we've ever done that as a school district. Please, let's give CMSD a round of applause. In fact, I think this is the Cleveland Plan beginning to pay off. I looked it up, and the Cleveland Plan started in the 2011-2012 school year, which means the kids who graduated this spring would be the people that started kindergarten when the Cleveland Plan began, which means we have now gone through 12 full years of the Cleveland Plan, and we're starting to reap the benefits of this investment in education. But it's not just the school board and the administrator, it is the thousands of teachers, the many hundreds of administrative professionals working in our schools, the nurses, it is the parents of students, it is the partners in the philanthropic community that have donated so much money to the schools, as well as all the ancillary programs that are run by nonprofits in the schools. So really, the achievement of a 3-star rating for CMSD is a true community effort and community victory for the people of Cleveland. So I want to, first off, make sure that everybody understands this is something that we all need to share recognition in and put it in that context. The second thing I wanted to do is contextualize what the 3 stars means. So I broke up the entire county, Mr. President, into charter schools and public schools, and then I sort of looked at the breakout of how the schools especially in something as difficult as public education, especially as difficult as public education in an urban area with concentrated poverty. But 3 stars is our new expectation. It is our new standard of what we should expect from schools in Cleveland, and we cannot turn around and go back. It's one of the reasons I'm supporting the, at least 49, is the school levy, because we made progress, we can demonstrate this progress, we can tell parents about this, we can tell our neighbors about this, but we also need to keep supporting schools financially. The last thing I wanted to say on this subject is that CMSD is excelling in part because of some of the changes that we've incorporated, and I would like someone out there to do a little bit of research on this for me. A lot of CMSD schools now have extended instructional hours. They are either extended days, they are extended school years, but they have more classroom instructional hours than a standard school. And I think those schools are outperforming the schools with fewer hours on average, and I'd like somebody to look into this. Also, we know that kids in our neighborhoods have a lot of difficulties where they're coming into school from, in their community, in their home life, and we have a lot of trauma in our schools. The most important thing we can do to help these students is maintain a robust music, arts, and athletic programs for kids. Kids do not possess the language to talk about how they're projecting pent-up frustrations about inferiority, and they can't have these conversations with their children, but they can draw, they can play music, they can play sports, and we have to make sure that these options are still available to our kids moving forward, because this is what's helping them work through their emotions so that they can get better instruction when they're sitting in class learning from teachers. So the second thing I hope somebody will look into is, of our highest performing schools, which ones offer music, art, and sports, and is there a correlation between high performance and the offering of music, arts, and sports? Third thing to look at is school population. We know that there is an ideal population of students per staff ratio in order to give the most one-on-one time. We know that there is a redundancy in service when we do not have that proper population. So I hope that somebody looks into this, because if we have to close schools that are underpopulated, people vote with their feet, and we should concentrate our efforts on schools that are succeeding. Last but not least, I want to point out a couple schools that are doing even better than 3 stars. We had a number of 4-star schools in CMSD, and I'm not being entirely thorough here, but some of our 4-star schools are Campus International, downtown 22nd and Main, Bureau Dual Language Elementary, Clark Elementary, Louisa May Alcott, R.G. Jones, Village Prep, which is a charter school in conjunction with CMSD, and the Cleveland High School, Cleveland School of the Arts High School, all got 4 stars. This is as good as any suburban school that you can imagine. We had 2 schools, at least, that got 4.5 stars. That's Douglas MacArthur and near Western Intergenerational, another charter course with CMSD. But, Mr. President, the crowning jewel of the CMSD remains John Hay High School, University Circle. There's 3 high schools at John Hay, and it's college, prep, medicine, and engineering. All 3 are 5-star schools. You cannot do better than that. John Hay has 3 5-star schools in one roof in Cleveland available to all CMSD students, so you can start your kid in kindergarten and get them through 12th grade and go to nothing but 4, 4.5, and 5-star schools in Cleveland for free. And we don't tell this story loud enough, we don't tell it often enough, but it is a fact. We have the measured results from the state of Ohio. And we need to let people know that schools are not a reason to decide whether or not to live in Cleveland. There is a path forward for every parent that wants to send their kids to Cleveland public schools. So not only that, these kids are graduating with free college. They're getting the Say Yes to Education program as well. So I want to share those thoughts. Let's keep up the good work. Let's understand that we've reset the floor. The expectation is now 3 stars. We can't go below that. We can't go back to 2.5. Let's keep this moving forward. Let's support the school levy. And thank you for the time.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Harsh. Councilman Harsh asked me for extra time, as well as Councilman Jones. And I just want to caution all council members, whenever you want extra time, please let the chair know so that I can make sure that I acknowledge you getting extra time. The next person is Councilwoman Spencer, and then Councilwoman Joseph Jones, who has asked for extra time.
Thank you, Council President. So the November 5th election is 6 weeks from tomorrow. And I know a lot of us are spending a lot of time thinking about how to work with our residents and talk to them about leaning into the power of their vote, because it is so powerful and it is so impactful, and that's the work we're all in for the next 6 weeks together. And I also know I've watched all of us work, all of us in this chamber here tonight work. And it is not just about asking people for their votes during election time, when there's an election coming up. The work of public service, our charge, what we must do is show people and truly demonstrate to them how government makes their life better every day, not just when it's time to ask for their vote. And that's what I see you all do as my colleagues. That's what I see this administration do. And I'm so grateful for everyone's public service in this room. That said, there are some deadlines coming up. In addition to Election Day 6 weeks from tomorrow, 2 weeks from tomorrow is the voter registration deadline, which is October 7th. Last week was National Voter Registration Day, and I thought about making this as an announcement, but leaning into my miscellaneous time here, we are keeping it going in wards 15 and 11. Wards 11 and 15 are keeping the National Voter Registration Day vibe going a week from tonight. And Monday, September 30th from 5 to 7 p.m. at Cadell Recreation Center. We have brought together a beautiful collaboration, and I'm so proud. We have the Cleveland Cavaliers, Mayor Justin M. Bibb. I want to thank Austin Davis and Jaden Baxter in the mayor's office for, hey Austin, thank you for helping to bring this together. Councilman Danny Kelly and myself, the amazing staff at Cadell Recreation Center in collaboration with amazing partners. We have the Cuyahoga County Board of Elections, the Cleveland branch of the NAACP, the Urban League of Greater Cleveland, Young Latino Network, Ms. Samaria Rice, the founder of the Tamir Rice Foundation, the League of Women Voters. We will all be there next Monday, a week from tonight, Monday, September 30th, from 5 to 7 p.m. for a voter engagement event. And although Councilman Kelly and I are really cool, Mayor is awesome, the Mayor will be making appearance, there will be special appearances from the Cavs entertainment team, surprise appearances to be announced. So this is focused on the Cadell neighborhood because 7 precincts vote at Cadell Recreation Center. It is a busy, busy voting hub, but this is for the whole community. Anyone who would like to participate is invited, and we can't wait to see you there. Free and open to the whole community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I've got Councilman Joe Jones. He stepped out. Councilman Richard Starr.
Thank you. Oh. Yeah.
I am not Blaine Griffin.
I almost said that. No, thank you to this council, to this body, for the work that we're doing. One thing I definitely want to highlight is the fact that on this upcoming Saturday, we have a huge event coming up where we have boots on the ground that will take place at Zelma George at 11 o'clock. Our whole goal is to have 1,000 people canvassing our neighborhoods. Shout out to our colleague, Councilman Kevin Bishop, for making this a councilmatic event in his neighborhood because it's very important. There's been a decline in voting turnout in this city, in this state, in this county, in the country, and one of the things we have to do is show up and do our part. So if you have friends, family, we putting 1,000 black men, boots on the ground in our neighborhood this Saturday. This was something that was led by not only myself, but Council President for hearing my thoughts and understanding what we need to do, Ken Dow, as well as other different leaders. We've called on the Divine Nine. All those different organizations will be there. So if you have time, if you have people in your family, neighbors, or anything like that, I urge you to come to this event September 28th, this Saturday at 11 o'clock. We'll be at Zelma George, and we're going to canvass our neighborhood. One thing I also want to just really bring to the light is, man, we get blamed for everything in council. And what I mean by that is, when people are not informed and don't understand what things going, it's easy to point the finger at somebody that you got a chance to see at a grocery store, walk around. But I want to tell you, council members, we are doing a good job. I can complain about what others want to think. Most of the time they don't live in our neighborhoods and they always got an opinion about something. But let me tell you something. You can say what you want to say. I don't mind going to war and battle and serving this body with you all at any day. I know sometimes we laugh, sometimes we cry, sometimes we complain. But at the end of the day, we all were elected by those people in our ward, so the decisions that we make in our ward, for our ward, is something that we always going to answer to our people. But I do not want anybody to understand going against our colleagues should never happen in this, ever. So if you're a part of anything like that, your time is coming too. Now, I definitely want to address something, though. Me and Councilman Harsh will be talking about this report card. Now, I'm a CMSD graduate. And I applaud the work that CMSD is doing. There's a lot of things that go on in front of a school outside of them doing the school work and the challenges that our kids face. But I want to talk about the reality. And when you look at that report card, when it says early literacy, we got a 1 star. Where this early literacy component is a measure of reading, improvement, and proficiency for students in kindergarten through 3rd grade. It also says improving K-3 literacy, that's a 23% of our students. Then it says 3rd grade reading proficiency, 35% of our students. But then we have somehow a grade promotion in 4th grade, 88% of our students. So at the end of the day, I hear that we got a 3. That is, I applaud us for the steps that we've taken to get better, but we are far from doing what we need to do. We have a lot of our kids in our school who are not proficient as far as reading, writing, or the literacy that they need to. But then one thing you got to think about when you look at this number and this data is, if only 35% of our students are reading proficiency at a proficient rate, then what happens with the other students when 88% of them is promoted to the 4th grade? That shows some things that we're talking about dealing with. And this is how I break it down. When you look at college, career, workforce, and military readiness, it says only 26% of our students are ready. So while we're talking about a 75% or 80% graduation rate, if these kids were not able to read in K through 3rd grade, when are they going to be proficient? So when we talk about what's going on in the city, what I deal with in my neighborhood for over 16 years, yes, they graduate from high school. Yes, they got a diploma, but that job and that trade initiative where we all work ourselves off to get them in there, they can't do it as much. So they get that first 2 checks, and then they find out that they can't do the work. So next thing you know, the manager is on their back. So they end up leaving a job. Turn around 20 years old, they end up having a kid. Mama still want her rent, got another mouth to feed, but they can't work the job that they are qualified because they got a high school diploma, but at the end of the day, they keep not getting it right. So at the end of the day is, we got to do quality over, we got to do quantity over quality, and that's something we must address. So at the end of the day, I applaud CMSD, I applaud our educators, but we really need to look at our school system more deeper and get to the root causes of a lot of these problems. No, they're not getting the right amount of funding. No, they don't have after-school program. Yes, I have a problem with how they are running athletics. Yes, I have a problem about how we do not have education as a top priority. Our kids are not graduating with the tools and skills needed to be successful based on this report card where it says 26% students who are ready. This component looks at how well prepared Ohio students are for future opportunities, whether training in a technical field or preparing for college or workforce. So yes, when you look at the crime, yes, when you look at the violence in this community, in this city, it is a direct correlation because we do not have everything that we need. So our school system needs us, but we also need to be realized. And also, this K-8 model is the worst thing ever. It's the worst thing ever in our schools. And if you look at it when we went through the budget, we found out that the district ain't even putting a percentage, only a half a percentage to athletics and extracurricular activities in our schools. So yes, there's a lot of things going on. So yes, I commend them for that grade of a 3, but I'm talking about the reality. Our kids is graduating and they don't have the tools to be successful in life.
Thank you, Councilman. I have Councilman Joseph Jones and then I believe Councilman Kevin Conwell. And Councilman Joseph Jones is asked for extra time.
Thank you, Mr. President, I rise to set the record straight. Over the weekend, there was a report that came on news, and it was talking about, and one of the people who spoke earlier about the gas stations in the Lee Harvard Ward 1 area. And this particular gas station owner stated that he had contacted me several times and wasn't able to reach me. In addition to that, Mr. Max, Mr. Conwell, is the bar that is right next to the gas station. And every time there is an event on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, mostly on Saturdays and Sundays, his customers can't get in to the gas station because it's packed with cars. And most of those customers are customers who are going across the street to the bar. And it has been an ongoing issue for us. Now, I haven't met this Mr. Shady, but I'm looking forward to meeting Mr. Shady. He has the appropriate name. And certainly it was really shady of him to say that I don't respond to my neighborhood issues. In fact, I've been on this issue day one. And when Commander Kutz was the commander of the 4th District, what we did was bring this to his attention, with video. Then we brought it to then Chief Williams' attention about this being a problem here, and we need to have something done from the police department to deal with this issue, the loud music, the overcrowding, and it was so bad that during the COVID time, people didn't even have masks on. This was at the height of COVID in our city and our nation, and people were on the outside not wearing masks, and we had to even report that as well. Then when Commander Kutz was no longer there and we got Commander Brown, we also reported it to Commander Brown. We also reported it to the safety director, Mr. Kerry Howard. We also came back when we no longer had Commander Brown. We reported the situation and needing assistance and help also to our new commander, Ralph Valentino. We also reported the information to not only the previous chief of the police department, Mr. Dormant, but we also reported the issue in video to Mr. Dormant as the chief of the city of Cleveland. And with the new chief, Mrs. Todd, we also reported the issue that this gas station is a nuisance in our ward and something needs to be done to deal with this issue. So correcting the record, Mr. Chairman, I don't mind if the administration, if they would like to, because we have such a shortage with police officers in the city of Cleveland, to deputize me and give me 4 police cars and give me the means that I need to have to deal with the issues in my neighborhood. When we are elected as council members down here, they don't give us guns and police vests to put on and cars. That's not our job. Our job is to do what we do, report that issue in, and pray that it gets taken care of. Now, for the administration who's here now, we have a major issue, Mr. Max Barr. It's not the first time I brought it to your attention. It's not the second time I brought it to your attention. Now it's an issue where they're trying to stage the proposition that I'm not an effective council member. I'm not paying attention to what's happening. So I need your help, and I don't know who I need to talk to over there, but as you have heard me state here, I have an issue, and I've given you video, and I've sent that video all the way up the chain. And so I need some assistance and help on being able to handle this problem, this growing problem in my neighborhood. And I'll say this, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, it was so bad that I went out there and talked to the gas station owner. That's why I'm so perturbed, as Fannie Lewis would say it. I went out there and talked to that gas station owner and told him, you ought to have signs up for customers only. You will be towed at your expense. And I went out there today to go check to see if he had did that, because if you just do that alone and have your tow truck there, they'll get the message. Am I right? For those who have properties, and a number of properties, when you put those signs up and you get your tow truck out there and you tow them, it's going to have an impact. And so I even, Mr. President, went as far as to do that. So setting the record straight, when something is happening in Ward 1, I'm committed and dedicated to helping the citizens of my neighborhood. And that means leaving my phone on at night, getting out at night, over 12 times, going out there dealing with that issue with Mr. Max at 12, 1, and 2 o'clock in the morning. So with that being said, I wanted to set the record on that, Mr. President. Hopefully, I'll be getting in contact with the administration and seeing what are the next steps and what are they working on right now. Again, I got to say that we do have a great commander in the 4th District. I know that I've heard that there was a death, and that was one of the reasons why this particular party over the weekend was such a massive issue. Next, I want to talk about the Cleveland Public Schools. And the Cleveland Public Schools is a school system that we cannot afford to ignore. We know that there's a lot of issues out here. There's a lot of tax increases, but a lot of the public, and the public doesn't understand. I appreciate my colleague, Chris Harsh, standing up, and I appreciate you, Mr. President, giving him a little bit more time to talk about what a 3-star rating is. So it was very informative. If our city is going to survive, then we must invest in education. Any great civilization of people realize that education is important. So I stand here today to ask my colleagues, and I also ask those who are listening to support CMSD. The rate increase that they're talking about increasing will not increase your current tax. It will go on your old tax ratings. So with the new bills that have come in for increase, it will not impact your homes and your home insurance. So with that being said, Mr. President, I rise to support CMSD and this tax levy. I think it's important that we do everything we can to keep our schools moving forward in a positive way. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Kevin Conwell.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on this school issue. I started not to say anything. You know, Councilmember Starr, you're right about that K through 8. That's nuts. That's crazy. Yeah, but it really should go from K, let's say K through 6, and then 7, 8, 9, because the way they did it back then, that just wasn't good. That's not good at all. I mean, I'm in the schools all the time. I appreciate this discussion on the schools. The only way the schools will be able to make it is that I was a PTA president in all my children's schools, an engaged parent, and even father for the children who didn't have any fathers. The only way, you can't leave the schools, let's say, bowling alone by themselves. You gotta have a team. You will never hit 300 bowling alone by yourself. So Warren Morgan, who is the CEO, inherited this issue. He has the baton now, but you gotta have engaged parenting. You have to have fathers in there, you have to have mothers in there working for the good of the whole, working right along with the teachers. And by having this, the little kids will look up and say, that's my father looking at me. Like you, Kevin Bishop, talking about fatherhood with your kids. They'll see that. And it's not just when you look at these scores, you'll see test scores rise from a 3 to a 4, whatever the case may be. We'll pass the levy. The levy is not going to do it alone, and you turn around and you say, well, we gave them money. It's more than just the money, it's people being engaged. And Dr. Warren Morgan must also reach out and create SCCs and PTA, parent, teachers, and involvement together to work for the good of the whole. That child will feel great when she looks up and see mother looking at her, not just on a day of open house, but all the time doing science fairs and bringing things to the children. Even when someone have left Glenville High School or John Adams High School or John Hay, which you mentioned, there's a great school. Some of those people go on and they get their MBAs and become CPAs and become lawyers and doctors and dentists. They must come back and help John Hay out. Because children have to see success every single day so that they know this is what I can become. So if you're an alumni and you graduated from John Hay, you need to come back there if you're a scientist or a dentist or a doctor or a lawyer and talk with the children, and then the children will know that you care because we live through our children. So I support this. Tomorrow also at 3:30, my team will meet at Glen Village, and we're walking door to door to talk about the school issues. And we're walking door to push this. Because as you know, I always say, you gotta walk it like you talk it or you lose that beat. And the only way to do it is to get out there and work, and then the children see. And then we, even as council members, must, when we pass by our schools, you stop by and you talk with the principal and say everything is okay. Because they cannot bowl alone by themselves and help things out. They gotta know that we are working together for the good of the whole. So I support the school levy, but it's not just gonna be pushing this tax issue in a renewal. It's gonna be us all together, bowling together. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you. Before we close out, a couple of topics that I want to make sure that we touch, and they're very sensitive topics. I'm going to touch the harder topic first. Danny Kelly. Danny Kelly is an honorable, great person. Danny Kelly is in a position to have to make a very tough decision. I want people to recognize something. This body is a whole. We're only as good as we operate together. And when one of our members is faced with a very tough decision, our job is to be here to support and to help him bounce things off as he's making a very tough decision. He has council members who are very close to the situation, and their constituency are very vocal in what they would like to see. These are not easy circumstances. So I want all of us to exercise a little bit of patience, a little bit of understanding, and really try to be supportive as these council members really try to figure out how they want to move forward as a community. I'm very cautious not to be in the Buckeye Shaker community and come over and tell people what they need to do in Coudale and Edgewater. That's the reason why we have elected representation. I know it's a tough situation. I know there's a lot of very tough decisions that have to be made, but our job as colleagues is to not pile on, but to how we make sure that colleagues that are affected by this, because my colleague Jenny Spencer is very closely affected by this too. And I've really relied on two council members who have very big hearts to continue to give us guidance as a body in how we move forward. The public's gonna have their opinions, but we as a body have to be supportive of these two members as they deliberate over something that's very sensitive in this zoning piece in this gas station. Nobody is corrupt because they have an opinion. People are allowed to have opinions, and people are allowed to have disagreements. And these are tough decisions. And any council member that have been in these zoning decisions know that these are some of the toughest decisions that you have to make. And you can potentially lose friends and gain friends in the process. So I'd ask everybody to show a measure of patience as these two members, Councilwoman Spencer and Councilman Kelly, deliberate over what's best for their community, and they may disagree. But at the end of the day, there's going to have to be some tough decisions made on that process, and I don't think it's because anybody is catering to any constituency other than trying to see what the people of the community want to see. Not just the loud vocal majority, but all members that have a point. People last week came and registered their opinion. People this week came and registered their opinion, and there's continued engagement. That's what democracy does. It's messy. It is not easy. But I would ask everyone not to fall into the toxic rhetoric that some people are trying to put a cloud over with this situation, because this truly is a tough decision that 2 council members have to figure out and have to work their way through, and quite frankly, may have a disagreement, but it doesn't make either one of them bad because of what they're doing. So I ask us to exercise some judgment and patience as we embrace these 2 council members as this tough situation takes shape. I also want to secondly talk about the fiscal conversation that we have today. Ladies and gentlemen, as we embark upon an oversight process that we have to look into the city operations, I ask each chairperson and each council person to diligently get involved in the fiscal oversight. There were some things that were revealed today that I think the fiscal department did a good job of explaining, but then there's also some unknowns that I think that we have to do a better job of understanding as council and how we get to some of these situations. That's our job. We're not trying to play I got you. We're not trying to do politics. What we're trying to do is do our job, which is oversight. So in the next couple of weeks, we change the process in conjunction with the administration, where we're going to do a deep dive in the operations so that we can make recommendations on how the budget should look on the front end, as opposed to being presented a budget and then reacting to it. So I'd ask all of you to take the operational budget hearing seriously, and I'd ask that you allow today's conversation that was the impetus of creating those budget oversight hearings to make sure that you do your duty and oversee the budget and make recommendations and be responsible. You know your council president is very nimble. I learned not to say cheap, but very nimble when it comes to budgets and numbers. I don't just spend money that we don't have. So I ask for us to do that, because in the near future, we're going to have to make some tough decisions around budgetary obligations, and I want us to be able to look at that closely. Last but not least, this upcoming week, and I'm glad that Councilman Starr has mentioned this, even though we're focused on the most affected, what I think disrespected, and the most affected constituency of this year's election, that people are throwing everything but the kitchen sink at, from misinformation, disinformation, to everything else they can, has been African-American men. We have spent a significant amount of time standing up a program that we're going to focus on trying to get African-American men out to vote. Now, the reason I'm saying why this is so important, and we want everybody to be there this upcoming Saturday, 11 o'clock, Luke Easter Park, Zelma George, whichever one you want to call it, 3155 MLK, and right across the street where we'll be at the pavilions, is because I don't care what race, denomination, gender, background you are, we want everybody in Cleveland to be there to support the efforts to get African-American men out to vote this year. If you look at national studies, the population that is predicted to come out the least, and the population who everybody is fighting for, are African-American men. The women always show up. The women always come out and get involved. The different ethnic groups come out and get involved. The groups that we're targeting to try to make sure we work closely with the Divine Nine, with the other fraternal organizations like the Masons and 100 Black Men, and all of the other groups, is so that we can really try to focus on democracy. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a nonpartisan effort. We are not going to be talking about candidates. We simply want to tell our entire community that we want you to get out to vote. We want you to get out to vote. So I ask for us as leaders to really get involved in all of these efforts. Councilman Starr is going to be the general that we've appointed on the ground to really try to help dispatch troops. My job is to provide aerial support, but I would love for all of my colleagues and all of the administration, quite frankly, and all of the audience and listening audience to be there to support African-American men this upcoming Saturday. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. All I want to say is, Let's show patience with each other. Let's make sure we get involved in this upcoming election, and let's always do our job of oversight. Thank you. This committee meeting is adjourned. Please, Madam Clerk, excuse the absences. I don't forget the absences. Pat Britt would chase me down for the absences.
That's right. By Councilmember Harsh, that the absence of Councilmember House Jones is hereby excused, seconded by Councilmember Hairston.
Thank you. Council is adjourned to the next regular meeting on September the 30th, 2024. Thank you.